Welcome back to some new r/PettyRevenge stories, where people share small victories over those who wronged them. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Drive-Thru Revenge. I used to work as a barista at a popular coffee chain with a busy drive-thru. It was a sunny morning, the kind where birds are chirping, and the day feels like it's off to a good start. Except for one thing. Someone in the drive-thru line was leaning on their horn. I never figured out what set him off. Maybe he thought the car in front of him cut him off. Maybe they were too slow pulling forward. Or maybe they just spent a little too long at the menu board. Whatever the reason, by the time the woman in front of him got to the drive-thru window, she had clearly had enough of his behavior. The kind of enough that only a seasoned teacher or mom could express when dealing with a loud, unruly child. She was composed, with a smooth grey bob and an air of calm resolve. I told her the total and she handed me her card. She smiled and said, "I'd also like to pay for the gentleman behind me." We exchanged a knowing smile. I'm sure you can imagine the look on our faces. After she left, he pulled up to the window, clearly agitated and flustered. In my most cheerful customer service voice, I said, "The woman in front of you actually paid for your coffee. You don't owe me anything." And that's when his brain short-circuited. He started questioning me, looking completely baffled. "What do you mean? Why can't I pay for the coffee? Just charge me for my coffee." I kept my cheerful tone and smile as I replied, "Your coffee is already paid for, but I'd be happy to make you another one if you'd like to pay for something." We went back and forth like this for what felt like a solid minute, before, even more frustrated than before, he hit the gas and sped out of the parking lot. I'm sure he took that frustration out on others later that day, but her response stuck with me. Her calm and composed attitude made a lasting impression, and to this day, I carry it with me when I deal with unpleasant people, through all the jobs and challenges I've faced since then. The next story is called Marching Band. A long time ago, my dad worked as a postman in a Scottish town. This town was home to a lot of churches, and there was a healthy mix of Protestants and Catholic ones. Two churches in particular had a rivalry that resulted in marching bands. If I remember correctly, one of these bands was known as the Orange March. For weeks, the Orange March band would parade right up the middle of the road, from their church to the opposing church. Unfortunately for my dad, they always managed to time their march during his afternoon nap, after his early morning shift. Being repeatedly woken up by their music did not sit well with him. This went on for weeks, until my dad noticed something interesting. The band would always stop playing and hold their position in the road whenever they were interrupted. If a car honked or there was another loud noise, they'd pause until the interruption passed, then continue their march. This observation sparked an idea. My dad, being a bit on the mischievous side, decided he was going to do something about it. We had an old lawnmower, a petrol-powered one with an engine loud enough to rival a muscle car. He got it ready, filled it with fuel, and waited. Finally, he heard the familiar sound of the band approaching. This time, instead of groaning about the noise, he was thrilled. As the band marched past our house, my dad sprang into action. He yanked the starter chain, and the mower roared to life with a deafening thunder that could easily drown out the instruments. The band stopped in their tracks, waiting for the noise to subside. But my dad wasn't done. With shades on and a big grin plastered across his face, he went back and forth across the lawn, mowing with deliberate care, all while the band stood there, glaring at him. He even gave them a friendly wave. Finally, he finished the lawn. The band started playing again, but just as they got going, my dad remembered there was another patch of grass to mow. He fired up the mower again, taking his sweet time and grinning ear to ear. Once the band finally gave up and marched up a different street, My dad went inside and had the best nap of his life. After that day, the band never marched past our house again, and my dad got his peace and quiet. The third story is called Dishwasher Revenge. In my youth, I worked the evening shift as a dishwasher at a busy restaurant that handled a lot of traffic for both lunch and dinner. The dishwashing machine we used was a large conveyor-style unit that was almost fully automated. You'd load a rack of dishes, send it through, and a few minutes later, everything would come out sparkling clean. It had reservoirs for soap and sanitizer, and as long as you kept feeding it dishes, it did all the work. The day shift dishwasher, however, had a habit of leaving multiple tubs of dishes for the evening crew to clean, before the dinner rush even started. When we on the night shift complained about this, instead of easing up, he began leaving even more dishes. He wasn't the easiest person to work with. One night, I'd had enough. I teamed up with my dishwashing partner to send a clear message. We decided to leave him a little surprise. First, we shut the machine down early, leaving about 10 tubs of dishes for him to tackle in the morning. After I cleaned out the machine, I poured dish detergent all over the inside. It was a clear liquid, so I knew it would dry overnight and be nearly invisible by morning. Next, we mopped the floor spotless. Then we grabbed a block of butter from the walk-in fridge. I removed the cast iron grate from the floor drain, stuffed the butter deep into the drain with a mop handle, and replaced the grate. The trap was set. The next morning he arrived to find all those tubs of dishes waiting for him. He started up the machine as usual, but soon the soap I'd added began to work its magic. According to one of the line cooks who worked both shifts, so many suds poured out of the machine that the guy tried to hose them away, only to make the problem worse. Soon he was running back and forth, knee-deep in a sea of suds and water, desperately trying to wash it all down the drain. But of course, that drain wasn't going to cooperate. Surprisingly, there were no consequences for us from management. In fact, I heard the restaurant owner had a good laugh about the whole situation. After that day, we never again received more than one tub of leftover lunch dishes to clean before the dinner rush. The next story is called Cab Driver Lesson. This happened several years ago, a few months after I moved to Chicago. Before that, I had been living in Romania, where I went to school. While I was there, I had to learn Romanian quickly and thoroughly, because of my living situation. Not many people outside the university spoke English, so it was sink or swim when it came to communication. Fast forward to my early days in Chicago. One day I ordered an Uber, and when the driver arrived, I noticed he had a Romanian name. The area had a lot of Eastern Europeans, so it wasn't a huge surprise, but I was excited. I thought, what a great chance to practice my Romanian and make sure I'm not getting rusty. Maybe even make a new friend. The driver pulled up and I got in. He greeted me, but I quickly realized he was on the phone, chatting with someone, maybe a buddy or family member. I stayed quiet in the back seat, but since he was speaking Romanian, I couldn't help but listen in a little. The person on the other end of the call asked if he was finishing work soon. The driver responded with something along the lines of, "No, I still have a few hours left. Then I'll head home. Right now, I've got someone in the car. I hate this country. The women here are so unattractive. At least this one has a decent figure. But why can't she lose some weight?" And he kept going, making all kinds of negative comments. About me, about American women in general, and about life in the US. Now, I've always been on the curvier side. And while I'm used to hearing comments about it, especially after living in Romania, I was a little shocked to hear this guy going off like that, especially with me right there in the car. I stayed quiet, just bemused as we got closer to my destination. Then, as we approached, I calmly said in Romanian, doing my best to replicate the distinct accent of the region I had lived in, "Can you pull over there, on the right?" The guy froze. I swear his head spun around like something out of The Exorcist. and his face turned a shade of red I've never seen in nature. He didn't say a word, just pulled over. As I got out, I thanked him politely and added, "By the way, you are not exactly a model yourself, so maybe you shouldn't make comments like that about other people. I've never been proud of myself." The last story is called Ocean Revenge. A few years ago, a good friend of mine helped me get a job at the place he worked. They dealt with large, rideable, gas-powered lawn equipment, and the parts needed to repair them, and weed trimmers. The company had recently started taking online orders, so they thought an extra hand could help. The 5 people I worked with had been doing this for years. They knew everything about the machines they were sending parts for, and exactly where to find those parts. For the first few days, things went pretty well. I worked hard to familiarize myself with the staggering numbers of bolts, screws, washers, gaskets, reels, so many parts. When there was downtime, I'd walk through the parts section to try to get my bearings. By the 3rd day, I started to get the hang of it. I still had someone with me to guide me through, but I was beginning to feel more confident. Then, on first day, there wasn't much to do. They asked me, "Can you pull some stuff off and clean those shelves?" I said, "Sure thing. I don't like standing around doing nothing. I'd rather stay busy than check the clock every 5 minutes. Friday rolled around, and I was told my hours might change, but that I was definitely coming back. I got paid in cash for the week and was sent home. Then, I wasn't called back. Since my friend had gotten me the job, I asked him what was going on. He said they noticed there was downtime, with 3 people doing the same job. So, sorry man, you are out, but don't feel bad. The 2 guys running that department act like they have no idea what they are doing. He may have worded it a little more colorfully, but you get the idea. Still, there was one thing that stood out to me. I overheard one of the employees on a forklift bragging, "I'm not even certified, but watch this." I was a little upset, and maybe that annoyance led to me, while unemployed and in a bit of a mood, reporting them to OSHA. They even tried to follow up with me, but I let it go, thinking I was just ranting. But it turns out my follow-up wasn't necessary. OSHA showed up, saw 2 forklifts on site, and quickly realized nobody was certified to operate them. That wasn't all. They also found items stacked way too high and several other safety violations. The result was a fine of $18,000. And as far as I know, they still have forklift certification inspectors visiting regularly. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.